Okay, welcome to Power Pivots, the podcast where we explore the stories behind fundamental career shifts and changes that have made all the difference. I'm your host, I go by Hatu, and today we are joined by...
Hi, I'm Lola Faleti.
Hey Lola, how are you?
I'm good. How's it going?
It's going very well. I'm glad to have you on here. Very interesting how I saw your story. Actually, you made a post on Threads that caught my Power Pivots feed, and I thought it was an amazing story of how you were able to make this amazing career pivot. So immediately reached out and told you that we had to have you on. You immediately responded, and here we are.
Yes, and I'm so happy to be here.
Yeah, absolutely. And I'm so happy to have you. But for those who have been here before, you know immediately we jump into our PowerPoints. PowerPoints are 3 words or phrases that tell us a little bit more about yourself. They encapsulate your sense of being. So Lola, what would you say your PowerPoints are?
I have 3 phrases.
Okay.
I'm a vibe that lights a spark.
Okay.
I have a bias for action, and I'm a star.
Okay, amazing. Perfect. So tell me a little bit more about why you decided to choose each of those.
Yes, I know for a fact that I am a vibe. I enjoy my vibe every day, but I also know the impact that I have on everybody that I meet. I've worked in many different situations. We'll get into that in my backstory, from retail to HR and many things in between. And I see how, just my energy impacts the people around me.
Yeah.
I have a bias for action. I'm not afraid to get my hands dirty. I'm not afraid to do the work, even if it means I'll fail publicly. And a star, because I'm a star. There's 1 septillion stars in the universe. So that there's more than one of us. I believe I'm a star. I believe that everybody has a star living inside of them. And that leads the work that I do as a stylist.
Perfect. Amazing. Excellent. Those, I'm sure, are going to come up throughout your story. Very helpful for us to be able to get started here. But they always say that the story is told in hindsight, and hindsight is 2020. So that being said, Lola, if you look back, tell us a little bit about how you got to where you are right now.
Yes. So in order to understand the gravity of the pivot that I made, we have to look at the whole timeline very quickly. I dropped out of college in New York City in 2013, and I tried to build a career for myself, make a way for myself. I didn't have the money or the resources to go back to school, so I did what I had to do. I worked many jobs. I was a nanny, a private chef, and then I got into human resources at the nanny agency. So that was the dawn of my HR career. And then this was around 2015. In 2016, I started a clothing brand called the Babe Society. So that was me honoring my love for fashion for the first time and really building something for myself. And I did a reality show in 2017 around business building for women, entrepreneurship. And I took my business and tried to grow it, but then I got deep into corporate in 2018. I got my very first corporate job in the fashion industry. So, I was trying to give it my all. So by 2022, I had risen the corporate ladder, but I was starting to get burned out because I was doing entrepreneurship on the side, coaching, mysticism, and then full-time HR. So I started feeling ready to make that pivot to leave corporate in November 2022. So I started preparing, ramping up my coaching business. I was learning new skills. I was taking coaching courses and leaning into the mindset that if you leap, the net will catch you. So by that time, I had moved to California, June of 2023, and just ramped everything up. I was working at Docker as an HR business partner, earning $150,000 a year, not even including bonuses and all the other perks. But low-key, I was dying on the inside. It was rough. So March of 2024, I left corporate and I combined coaching, mysticism, and hypnotherapy because I was sure I would be successful. I was following the online coaching business formula. I
Mm-hmm.
was making the content. I was combining all my skills, but I was frustrated because I did make some money, but I was exhausted. I wasn't really healing my burnout. And then I came to the realization that I didn't really want to do this.
Mm-hmm.
My real passion was in fashion. I come from a lineage of women who have made clothing with their hands. My ancestors did this. It's been a calling my whole life. But I think I was so far into that corporate mindset of stability. You can be a VP of HR or chief HR officer one day and just do your thing on the side. But I felt like I was performing and I just could not do it anymore. So when I left, when I made the leap, it was almost like at this point, I might as well just do it now. I'm not fully ready,
Mm-hmm.
but I
Mm-hmm.
feel. So it took me a few months to then make another pivot, which was what I really wanted to do.
Mm-hmm. Got it. Awesome. No, that's super helpful. This is super good. Okay, so let's start first things first, right? So you obviously have identified your passion,
Yeah.
and you identified your passion like in 2016 and decided to go towards that angle. But
Yeah.
at the same time, the bills needs to be paid, right? And I
Yeah.
think that it's like one of the things that's so fascinating is that people sometimes think that it has to be either or. You have to pick one or the other. You have to go towards your passion full throttle, or you have to just like give your time to the man and not be able to do anything that fulfills you. And one of the biggest things I think that you realize there is that like you don't have to get the fulfillment necessarily from the job. You're like, I can get it from the side. And that being said, it's still a lot. That's a lot on you mentally, and it's a lot on you physically as well to be able to do that. So you have the epiphany almost of like, hey, I need to find my way out of here, and making and taking the steps towards that. So I know you said leap a few times, and I think that here we talk about all the time is like a pivot almost is not like the leap, right? It's almost like there's steps that you're taking towards it, which you did, right? You obviously had been working towards entrepreneurship and fashion for a while, and you were able to use that experience, still like give yourself like a safety net, right? Where it's not like you're just kind of putting everything else to the side and just going full throttle, and make it a transition, right? Whether it's like going from coaching and then eventually HR, and then you're like, you know what, I'm about to pull the plug on this and actually do what I really wanted to do.
Yeah.
So what is that feeling when you're like, you know what, I'm about to leave the comfort that I have right now and make that trade-off for the comfort to actually pursue what I really want to do?
It feels different every time. I have made pivots all throughout my life,
Mm-hmm.
and there are two types of feelings. There's the feeling that comes in your body where you're scared. You're scared in every scenario, but
Mm-hmm.
there's this embodied feeling of fear that comes from, wow, I genuinely have no idea what I'm doing. I'm scared. I don't even know what the odds are of this working out. And I
Mm-hmm.
know I just need to leave my environment, but I just, you know what I mean? And
Yeah.
then there's a feeling that is more grounded where you might feel intellectually that you are afraid. Like you know yourself or you observe yourself to be like, oh yeah, I guess I am a little anxious, but then you know deep down that it's different this
Mm-hmm.
time because you're
Yeah.
moving towards what you really want. I
Mm.
think when I had initially left corporate in March 2024, I felt that feeling of
Yeah.
fear that was palpable and that impacted the business that I was trying to grow at that
Mm-hmm.
time. It showed up in every decision that I made. But when I pursued style, when I abandoned everything I thought was true, and when I left the shoulds behind,
Mm-hmm.
it was not a question of, am I afraid? It's okay, yes, I'm a little anxious because I'm doing something new, but at the end of the day, like that'll pass. The passion supersedes the fear.
Yeah.
So that's how it feels for me.
Yeah, absolutely. And You said something there I want you to expound on. You said when I left the shoulds behind. What did you mean by that exactly? Like, how did that take place?
Yeah, growing up in a Nigerian household,
Hmm.
there were a lot of shoulds. There was a lot of obedience and conforming to what was acceptable by my parents, my elders, my broader community. I think a lot of us who have immigrant parents deal with that.
Hmm.
So
Hmm.
for me, the shoulds, the voice in my head, the voice of reason was what was telling me I should do this because it would produce Y.
Hmm.
And the shoulds are there to keep you safe, right? It's there
Hmm.
to keep you predictable. But that wasn't what I wanted for myself. Shoulds, you don't need to have them in your internal dialogue when you're
Hmm.
really trying to make moves, unless the should is telling you that you need to lock in and
Yeah, yeah, yeah,
actually
yeah,
do work because the work won't do itself.
yeah. The right shoulds.
Yeah,
The right shoulds.
exactly.
Yeah. Yeah, absolutely. Okay. Has Power Pivots inspire you to reevaluate your career path? If so, look into Power Pivots Career Coaching. Whether you're interested in career discovery, job description dissection, or interview prep, I take a tailored approach to helping you understand your ultimate career goals and get closer to them. Interested? Fill out the interest form at the bottom of the show notes for your free 30-minute consultation. For any questions, email hatu@powerpivots.co. That's HATU at powerpivots.co. As always, pivot powerfully. Cool. So you have made the decision to leave and to pursue style and fashion. How did that take shape? Like, in what capacity did you do that? What resources did you use? How were you able to make that happen?
Yes. In November 2024, I started Hypnotic Style, which is
Mm-hmm.
the working bucket that I will put it in is my styling business. And what's funny was that I had a dream maybe a month before that. And in that dream, somebody asked me, "Oh, what do you do for a living?" And I said, "Oh, I give people makeovers." And
Mm-hmm.
it was so funny, but I remember it very clearly. And when I woke up, I thought to myself, well, what if I did give people makeovers for a living? I felt that that was my subconscious telling me something or showing me a glimpse of the future. And I grew up watching Style Network,
Mm-hmm.
makeover shows on repeat. I was a fashion girly back then, even though my ability to express myself was limited by
Mm-hmm.
just, I'm living with my parents, I'm a child, whatever.
Mm-hmm.
So that was a sign for me. So it was a little scary. I started thinking about it. I jumped into Notion and I
Mm-hmm.
did a brain dump of everything that was in my head. It felt so aligned because I had so many topics that I could talk about. I had so many ideas of how I could work with people, but it was
Mm-hmm.
still scary because it was such a 180 from what I was doing before. To put into perspective, for most of 2024, even from before I left corporate, the content I was posting on the internet, the audience that I had cultivated was around coaching, personal development, all of that.
Mm-hmm.
And so to pivot so clearly into style when I was doing healing work, and I can argue
Mm-hmm.
that styling is healing work, but that's
Mm-hmm.
not the point, right? When I was doing that kind of work, it gave me some pause because I was like, oh, what if I lose audience? What if
Mm-hmm.
nobody takes me seriously? During that period, I tried to see if there was any overlap so that I could save face or make the transition as smooth as I could.
Mm-hmm.
But really, I just had to go for it and claim my new career, claim my new identity. So I decided to fully pursue styling.
Okay.
I took fashion from being a hobby to being a career by showing up for it like it was my job for real.
Yeah.
I
Yeah.
went from having literal dreams about styling people to very recently I styled a fashion show for the Super Bowl. And I had a lot of resources available to me.
Mm-hmm.
I took La Roche's course at the School of Style, and that was pivotal for me because my community, as well as the School of Style, funded that. So I could go, I
Mm-hmm.
didn't have to worry about paying for it. And I became a student again. It was really healing for me. Having La Roche as a mentor, somebody who is iconic, not only in the looks that he builds with his clients, but in the
Hmm.
way he architected his career.
Hmm.
That to me was something very special. And going to the School of Style, being such a deep participant, showing up, that landed me a role as an ambassador. So I'm currently an ambassador for the School of Style. And the learnings, the integration, how that impacted my life, I will see that unfolding for many years to come. I used my friends. My friends were my guinea pigs. They
Hmm.
invited me into their closets and they allowed me to practice my craft. They booked sessions with me, they paid me. So, one thing I find very, very crucial when making a pivot is you have to get the reps in early
Hmm.
and often, because
Absolutely.
you're going to stay stagnant. You can't just be in this planning phase. Otherwise, you're not really pivoting, right?
Yeah, yeah, yeah.
Pivot implies that an object is in motion. So in
Yes.
order to stay in motion, you have to do the work. So that was an underrated resource. And shout out to all of my friends who really, really showed up for me in that way.
Yeah.
Social media was a really, really good resource for me. That
Mm.
landed me my WNBA client, Temi Fagbenle, who is also an endless source of inspiration for me. Social media has exposed me to other stylists, to other ways of thinking. I'm not just a stylist. I think very critically and philosophically about style.
Mhm.
So being able to see other perspectives, oh, so good. And
Mhm.
then a very unexpected resource for me was Lululemon. I worked at Lululemon during 2025 and I left January 2026.
Mhm.
Lululemon provided me with such a safe space to refine my skills and my craft. I gained
Mm.
new clients from working there. I every single day I talked to people about their style. I touched
Mm.
clothes. I gained a level of knowledge that has exponentially made me a better image consultant, image architect, stylist. There are many layers here too, because
Yeah.
I was able to partner with them for looks for Tammy in the tunnel. So I turned
Mhm.
my retail job into a partnership with my client, which was
Wow.
great for her because we got her in some looks, but then also for Lululemon exposure. I styled their segment of the fashion show that I recently did, and that was contracted through my business. So
Mhm.
by the time I left Lululemon and I quit my job again and
Mhm.
made this leap again,
Mhm.
it felt more embodied in that I did what I came there to do. It wasn't just a job for me. I was able to
Yeah.
flip it.
Yeah.
And I'm so grateful for that because even the people that I met,
Mhm.
I did headshots recently with a coworker of mine from there. I have
Mhm.
people who I can call if I need assistance. I can go back there at any time. And because I had good relationships, I can make some things happen.
Yep.
So don't sleep on it.
Yeah, no, absolutely. And it's so crazy because a lot of times when people do pivots and they make drastic changes, their focus is always leaving the old behind and kind of just running from it as fast as you can. But
Mhm.
it sounds like, and I'm sure of it, like your corporate experience, right, and your retail experience played a real heavy part in how you approach the pivot, right?
Yeah.
And you mentioned there, like, I just dove into it like it was my job, right?
Yeah.
Even before the money started coming the way that you'd want it to, you're like, hey, I'm going to just like go after this incessantly and just keep on going. And that kind of drive and motivation to do it is absolutely necessary when the odds are stacked against you when you're trying to make a pivot, right? You're trying to make what is seemingly the impossible possible. And you have to have that drive to do that. And
Yeah.
then obviously, like you said, the course, which was super helpful, and it's always good, right, to see, hey, if there's some way or more like refined educational way that you can kind of get your foot into the door or be able to understand more of like how to make that pivot, by all means, right? And
Yes.
then you're using your network, right? Your network of friends who, shout out to your friends who are fantastic, letting you experiment, for lack of better terms, on them and actually paying you for your work, which, pay creatives for their work. And then also being able to use your network of folks that you worked with at Lululemon as well, right? So I think that a lot of these things with pivots, they don't just come out of thin air. They're things that you've accumulated throughout your career in the past, bringing them all together to make what you want happen and legitimately following your dream.
Indeed.
So that's awesome. Okay, so obviously have been able to talk about how this has had such a big change for your life. What would you say if you had to give yourself advice before you started your pivot? What is some advice that you would give yourself now looking back? And then also in that same vein, what is some advice that you follow continuously to this day to make the pivot successful?
Yes. So pre-pivot, I would go back in time and tell myself, be patient. You don't have to have everything figured out and fully formed right off the bat. It is okay. And then the second thing I would tell myself is to focus on creating a stable sense of identity, and everything else will follow that.
Okay.
Yeah.
Perfect.
And then advice that I follow now to keep the momentum going, because I don't play.
Yeah.
The first is, don't worry about who's watching you, who's not watching you, who's showing up for you, who is not showing up for you. That is a distraction.
Mm-hmm.
That is a distraction from the mission, because the
Mm-hmm.
people who are meant to be there consistently, they're there.
Yeah.
And don't overthink it. And
Yeah.
then the second thing, keep the learner's mindset, be curious, and be open to experimentation. And then a third that kind of ties into that is show up for your work, your creativity, for your craft every single day. The body of work will build itself around it, because I be getting caught up in the big picture sometimes. My brain moves very fast, so
Yeah. Yeah.
creating a container for that is crucial.
Yeah. Yeah. All really great advice, both for the pre and post. One part that I think is super important that you mentioned there, and I can't restate this enough, is don't be concerned about who's watching and who's not, who's showing up and who's not. Because so many different times, and I've gone through this myself, you expect that people are going to be there and they'll understand the vision, but they didn't have that dream that you had, right? So they can't speak to it. They couldn't feel it the way that you were able to feel it. They don't know the work that you've put in on the back end to make it happen, or the skill set that you have to be able to make that dream a reality, right? And make that pivot come true. So a lot of times, people will be there to celebrate at the end when things hit it big, or when, you make accomplishments that they deem to be significant, but that doesn't really matter, right? Because it's like they can't understand it because it's not their journey. So
Exactly. At the end of the day, it's gonna get done.
yeah,
So I might as
exactly.
well do it.
Exactly. So obviously there's a lot of exciting stuff that's happening right now, stuff that has happened very recently. What would you say, if you have to look forward, what would you say that you're excited about? Like, obviously you're growing your styling business right now as it speaks, have clients, have partnerships. What would you say you're excited about in the near term and even in the long term?
Yes. In the near term, I'm excited to work with more incredible collaborators, Black-owned brands, prepping some new tunnel looks for Tammy. So the WNBA needs to get the ish together for the
Okay.
contracts.
Yep. Get it together.
Yes, we got work to do. I'm
Yep.
also excited to share more of my thoughts on Substack. I write on Substack every week on Hypnotic Style, and
Okay.
putting things into words that people might feel but may not necessarily have the language for yet. So that's near term. Long term, I am looking forward to doing costume design. One of my dreams is to win an award for costume design. I think
Okay.
that would be so cool. And I just want to do it for the plot, for real.
Yeah.
And there's a particular book. It's called Necessary Fiction. Long term, my goal, if the author ever decides to turn it into a movie or a
Mm.
series, I want to be the costume designer for that
Okay.
and win an award for it. So,
Okay. All right. Well, there you
yeah.
go. You have to speak it into existence. You have
Yes,
to speak it to existence to make it happen.
exactly.
So perfect. Lola, you've shared so many amazing words of wisdom with us already and a truly inspirational story. But do you have any parting words that you'd want for someone who's interested in making a pivot similar to yours, even the same as yours? What would be some parting words of wisdom for them?
Live your life first. That is the only way you are going to know what it is that you desire. Treat your wardrobe as a portal to new possibilities and get over yourself. Just
Mm.
do it. Every moment that you lie to yourself that you don't want to do something is a moment that you could be doing it.
Mm. Well, there you go. There you have it, folks. There you have it. There you have it. Laura, thank you so much for making the time here to share this amazing story with us.
You are very welcome. Thank you for having me.
Absolutely, absolutely. And thank you all so much for listening. Please remember to like and subscribe for more. Most importantly, pivot powerfully. Be well, everyone.